Welcome to the Celebrity Chef Show. I'm your host, John Ferrucci, and tonight we're going to make a really good dish. One of my favorites. It was a great seller at the restaurant. It's called veal alla Pagliacci. And when it's, well, veal, I say veal, it's actually we're going to use chicken because it's hard to find veal in Kentucky, if not impossible. So we're going to use chicken. You can use chicken or veal, actually. And what it is we're going to bread up some some chicken cutlets. We're going to bread up some eggplant cutlets. Then we're going to layer them with spinach, eggplant, mozzarella, nice red sauce, bacon. Oh, it's a wonderful dish. So, as usual, I use an electric skillet so I don't have to have my back to you at the stove. And I'm using a product called ghee, G-H-E-E. And what it actually is if you can see, it's just the oil of the melted butter. What we used to use this in restaurants all the time, and what it is it's we used to put on big stock pots of butter, usually a whole case, like 35 pounds, and we'd let it simmer for just a short while. It'll boil out the water in milk solids. Then when it rises, it's just this beautiful golden oil. It doesn't burn and has a high smoke point. It imparts a nice buttery flavor without that brown and burnt taste. So I always try to fry with this, and I was happy to find it in the grocery store. I like to put a little bit of olive oil in, just for flavor. I love the taste of olive oil. Now we're going to start off with a little bit extra oil because we're not only frying the chicken cutlets, we're also frying the eggplant cutlets. So I've already pounded out a few of these chickens, so I don't have to make so much noise for you. And I was so happy. Look at this. I was so happy at the grocery store. Look at that beautiful chicken breast. Did you ever see something like that? They're not these big mutant chicken breasts that you normally find. It's a beautiful, small little, I'd say it's probably a 4 or 5 ounce chicken breast. And you just want to pound it out just to keep the shape. You're not hitting the end of the one part more than the other. Okay, so you've got that heart-shaped, beautiful, but it's just a beautiful breast. Normally, lately, these chicken breasts you've been finding are, I don't know, I think they come off of an oven stuff or a roaster. This is actually what a chicken breast should look like. Beautiful size. So we'll get rid of this. We're done with this. Now, I have my breading all set here. What we've got is flour to dust with and breadcrumbs, but I like to, even though they're seasoned, I like to season mine a little bit more. So I put a little bit of granulated garlic, and I put a little bit of granulated onion. Okay, put a little bit of white pepper, and we'll put a little bit of grated cheese. And I like to put in just a little bit of salt. I'll just mix all this in. And I think it just, by seasoning your own crumbs, it gives you that little bit more flavor. I have my egg wash here, which is a couple of eggs, a little bit of milk. Now when you're breading something, we call this in the trade a standard breading procedure. So you have your flour, you have your product, which I have here, if you can see it, it's off to the side, is my chicken, my eggplant. Then you have your flour for dusting. You have your egg batter to moisten your product, breadcrumbs to adhere to your product, and then you have a dish to put it in. And you generally use one hand, so you keep this hand dry all the time, because if this gets wet and goes into the crumbs, what happens? You end up with 3 pounds of crumbs on the end of your finger. So you try to keep one hand dry. And this is our eggplant. I've already sliced it up. As you see, I've already breaded up a few pieces so we can save a little time. So I'll bread this first. And I don't believe in, a lot of people when they slice eggplant, they salt it and let it stay and then they squeeze it out. And I really don't know what that's all about. I've never done that in my entire career. What I'm going to do is, we're only going to use 2 of these breasts today. I'm going to bread all 4, but I think I'm only going to bake only gonna bake off, fry off rather, 2 of them. I've got 2 larger ones here that I'll use for me and my camera person tonight, because that'll be our dinner. So I don't get to eat it in front of you, because I don't want your mouths to water, because this is a wonderful dish. Like I said, I love this dish, and you really don't need any accompaniment with this, and you'll see why when you see it completed. I mean, you might want, maybe the only thing I would want is some, if it was summer, I'd have some nice sliced fresh tomatoes and little fresh mozzarella, buffalo mozzarella. That's about all. So, okay, so you see how with your hands dry and not all caked up with breadcrumbs. That's what we call a standard breading procedure. Okay, here's our 4 cutlets. Now we'll put this aside. We'll check on our oil that it's full. I'm just going to rinse my hand off real quick. Okay. Now we're going to fry these off at about, I'm going to say 375 maybe. And it doesn't look like we have enough oil there either. I'm going to put a little bit more. Because you don't want to add cold oil to a hot pan. And by the way, this ghee, you can find, it seems like it's becoming more and more popular, so you're able to find it in more and more supermarkets. Okay, we'll move this out of the way. Our spices behind me. Now I've already gotten, to save some time too, because we all know how to cook spinach. So I've already cooked off a bag of spinach. And believe it or not, this is a 12-ounce bag of spinach. And basically what you want to do with this is you want to just steam it off. Just maybe a 1/3 cup of water in a small saucepan. I cooked that whole bag in this pan here. So as it cooked down, you stir it around and you cook down. And once it gets to this point here, it's good to go. I squeeze it out the best I could with my tongue here, okay, in the pan. Try to squeeze as much liquid as you could out. And then I like to just put a little bit of olive oil in, just for flavor, stir it around, and that's that. Now, what I got here is some fresh parsley. That's going to be the garnish afterwards. And my shallots, I have some sliced shallots. We're going to saute that off with the oil just to give a little flavor while we're cooking that. Now I have a surface thermometer. Just want to see the temperature of the oil because, see, it's reading 240. Because I don't trust this gauge. This skillet is probably, I'm going to say, what do you say, Colleen? Maybe 50 years old.
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
might have been my mother's at one point. I have a large one and a small one. Actually, for our wedding anniversary, 51 years ago. And we got one of these for her. This may be it, probably. So we'll check this again. And this is just testing the surface temperature. You can see at 295. You can't see that. Okay, well, 300. It's coming up there. We don't want to really start frying until about 325. And you can see the oil's rippling a little bit. That's a good indication that heat is getting in there. And again, we have this on 350. I think we're about ready now. Let's see. Yeah, we're at 320, 325. I think we could start. So we're going to start by frying off this eggplant. And eggplant cooks fairly quick, so we're going to put this in, then we can take this off. We probably can do everything at once. That's why I used a larger pan. I definitely want to use this larger chicken breast. And that one, I think, this one here. We'll cook these 2. See how nice that's going? You don't want to disturb these. Once you put stuff in, whatever you're cooking, you leave it. You don't want to turn it. You don't want to disturb it. Because what happens is then it's going to stick to the bottom of the pan. When you turn it, all your breading is going to be on the frying pan. Whether you use a breading or whether you're using just eggs, like in a franchise. So once you start frying, you don't disturb it until it's ready to turn. And you know it's ready to turn when around the edges, you'll see it's starting to get brown. And also, it'll start center of each item that you're cooking. The moisture will start being driven up by the heat. So you'll see it'll begin to get moisture looking. That's an indication to turn. Well, that's going. I have my oven here. I'm going to preheat this oven. This is a small tabletop convection oven, and for us two here, I use this oven 95% of the time. I seldom use my big oven. It's just easier to control, and it's perfect. I'm going to get another platter to put these cooked eggplants in when you're done. I want to try to squeeze this other chicken breast in here. There you go. That'll go perfect right there. Perfect. Okay. Now, I mentioned I had some shallots. And I just want to spread these around a little bit. These are just going to add to the flavor of that oil. Okay? You could put a little bit of thyme in there to give it some flavor. A little bit of fresh herbs is always good when you're frying. Okay, that's a good temp right there. It's sizzling, but it's not burning. I can see this eggplant already is beginning to brown up on the edge. Not quite ready to turn yet. Rid of this. Okay. So I have my. Put this away. I have my sauce on the stove already warming up. This is just the spaghetti sauce. You don't need very much because you're only going to cover the eggplant with it. I think we're ready here. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at how nice. You got a picture of that tongue with that nice golden brown eggplant? Now, when you fry up an eggplant, usually I fry the whole eggplant when I'm ready to cook an eggplant. That one's not quite ready, I can see. I fry it all up. Usually I fry 1 or 2 eggplants up. Let them cool down, and then I'll put them into a freezer bag and put them into the freezer. When I want an eggplant sandwich, I'll take a few pieces out, a nice piece of Italian bread, make an eggplant parmesan. This eggplant I actually bought for a pasta dish I saw, which looked very interesting, although I ended up slicing most of the eggplant up. But it was a pasta dish where they actually cooked the eggplant whole in the microwave rather than sauteing it. They cooked the whole eggplant, just put it in the microwave like that for about, I want to say about 7 minutes. Got soft and cooked inside. And then you cut it in half, you scoop out that eggplant, you saute it off with some mushrooms, some shallots, garlic, some fresh plum tomatoes. We're going to do that next week. That recipe sounds so good. I wanted to do that today, but I had these wonderful chicken breasts that I wanted to be sure I was able to cook up. I always like to put anything right on my cutting board. My oven is good. We're at 375. And I like to get this eggplant nice and crispy. Almost. That center one needs a little bit more. Now I'm going to let the chicken breast cook all the way here. Sometimes what I do is I'll just brown both sides, put it in the oven and let it finish in the oven, because I don't want it to get this dark brown sort of burntish on the chicken breast. But I think this will be fine here. Okay, this looks good. This would make a nice, put a couple of these on a nice Italian roll with some sauce that is not quite ready. And you've got yourself a beautiful eggplant parmesan sandwich. You can tell the doneness of foods too by touching it. See, it's a little soft yet, so I know this section isn't cooked, but this one is. It's very firm. Also, you can use an instant read thermometer, which I have one up there somewhere. Now, your cooked chicken should read 165 degrees. Well, let's see what this is reading. You always put it into the thickest part of the chicken. See, this is a little bit light yet. This is reading about 140, so that's not quite done. So the eggplants are ready. Now we'll take those out. Perfect. Good. 142. Let that settle up. If we could turn this one. And we're about ready, actually. This is so thin. Sometimes with an instant read, it's hard to get an actual temperature out of it because it's so thin. It's coming out the other side. Let's see here. Yeah, let's read 156. So we're going to give it a little bit more time. It's almost ready. But that's what this is, an instant read. It's digital, it tells you instantly what the temperature is. This is good in particular if you have a steak. You want to keep it medium rare, that would be about 127. Once you get to 130, you're almost into a medium. You want that red cool center. That's a medium rare. That's about 125, 130 top. Now I have this small pan here, and I always like to cook with parchment on the bottom. This one here, it doesn't stick to the pan, and it makes it so much easier to clean too. If you just use this pan, once you put the sauce on, a little sauce goes on the pan, it's in the oven, it's going to burn on you. This will be perfect. So we got another minute or so on this. This one, yeah, almost. We've got to cook up good, because once we go in the oven with it, we're really just finishing it. We're not cooking it at this moment. So what I got here now is the spinach. I also have some fresh mozzarella, shredded mozzarella, I should say, not fresh. And this is Hawaii cheese, which is very creamy. And because the mozzarella is shredded, it's liable to, I'm sure it's going to fall off to the side. So I think once we put the mozzarella on, I'm going to put a nice slice of this cheese over too. And it'll hold everything in place for when we serve it. All right, I think we're good to go here. Feels good. I think what we're going to do is we'll shut this off. Take our chicken breast out. Get right in our sheet pan. Let's move this out of the way. Okay. Now, here's the procedure for this. Get my spaghetti sauce. You warm the sauce up first so it doesn't, a little less time in the oven. So now we're going to give a little spaghetti sauce on each breast. I have a little Parmesan cheese. It's right here. Sprinkle a little Parmesan on there. Can you see that? Should I move my pan?
No, you're fine.
Okay. So now we're going to layer it with our eggplant. 2 pieces of eggplant. 2 pieces of eggplant. Now we're going to go a little bit more sauce. A little bit more cheese. You see what I mean? Like I said, this dish, you really don't need an accompaniment. This is a little too much spinach, so we're not going to use it all. But we're going to use a good amount. Okay, so put the spinach on the top like that. Okay. Not that much. That's good. This would be actually enough for the 4 portions of chicken that I made. Put this off to the side. Done with that. A little more cheese right now. But we are going to put this mozzarella on. See what I mean? The way it falls off. So I want to be sure that I get enough cheese on this dish. That's why I'm going to use this one also. Put a nice piece of cheese here. Nice piece of cheese here. Get that all patted down nice. This will take about 6 minutes in the oven. So in the meantime, I'm going to clean this all up and I'll be right back.